Aita, drama, secrets, confessions. Welcome to Trove Reddit.
I never thought a tray falling to the floor could completely change the way I saw a person. I thought I was just having lunch like any other day. But that moment froze me in place. A tiny detail, flashing for only a few seconds, revealed a shocking secret. And that secret was connected to war, to heroes, to things I once believed existed only in movies. What would you think if a simple, ordinary waiter turned out to be a soldier who had faced death dozens of times? Sounds crazy, right? But I witnessed it with my own eyes. It all began with the sharp crash of a tray hitting the tiled floor. And then, the entire restaurant went silent. I never imagined what I was about to see would send chills down my spine to this very day. Subscribe now so you don't miss more unbelievable stories like this one. That day, I walked into a small roadside diner, the kind of place I often stopped by when I had nowhere else to go to escape the noise of the city. The place was so ordinary that you'd never believe something earth-shattering could happen there. Old wooden tables, yellowed lights, walls stained with damp patches. Everything was completely normal. Until it suddenly wasn't. Have you ever gone somewhere just to grab a quick bite and leave, only to stumble upon a secret you'd never forget for the rest of your life? I went through exactly that. And I still wonder. If that day I had chosen to sit somewhere else, would I have missed one of the most shocking moments of my life? The waiter walked out from behind the counter. There was nothing remarkable about him. A wrinkled shirt, faded black pants, worn out shoes. His face was gentle, the kind you pass by without giving a second thought. I even assumed he was the type of person who could live his entire life without leaving a trace behind. But I was wrong. And I was wrong in a way I could never have imagined. The irony is that the most ordinary-looking people often hide the most extraordinary pasts. Why do true heroes choose to turn themselves into invisible people? Have you ever wondered how many terrifying secrets are hidden all around us, inside people who seem completely ordinary? At that moment, I knew nothing. I just sat in my corner, waiting for my usual lunch, even pulling out my phone to scroll TikTok out of boredom. No one in that diner that day could have guessed that within minutes, we would all witness something that left us silent and breathless. A moment that, even now, still gives me chills whenever I remember it. Are you ready to hear what happened when that tray of food hit the floor? I promise you, this story will make you question every person you've ever met in your life. Everything started when the waiter walked toward me carrying a tray of food. The clinking of plates and cutlery sounded completely normal. I didn't even look up, just kept scrolling through my phone like always. But then, a sharp sound shattered the air. Clang. The tray crashed onto the tiled floor. Food and dishes went flying everywhere. A glass rolled across the ground, and a spoon spun in circles like something out of a slow-motion movie. The entire diner froze for a moment. I jolted upright and looked over. And that was the moment everything changed. Have you ever witnessed something that made your heart race instantly, because you knew deep down it wasn't just a small accident? That's exactly how it felt. The waiter's face turned red as he bent down to pick everything up. Everyone else assumed it was just a clumsy mistake. But I noticed something no one else did. When he reached for the broken glass, his sleeve slid up. And in that fleeting instant, I saw something no one would have expected. You think a tattoo is nothing special? Wrong. This wasn't just any tattoo. It was the emblem of a secret military unit I had once read about in old documents. An emblem I thought I'd never see outside of books. And there it was inked on the arm of an ordinary waiter, right in front of me. Do you want to know what that tattoo really meant? Trust me, it will send chills down your spine. In that moment, it felt like I'd been struck by lightning. My eyes locked onto the waiter's arm. His sleeve had ridden up just enough to reveal sun-browned skin, marked with a bold black tattoo, clear, sharp, intimidating. Not flowers, not random letters, not the trendy designs young people usually get. But a symbol I could never mistake. It was the insignia of a special forces unit that had taken part in covert missions the media barely dared to mention. Can you believe it? With just one glance at that tattoo, I knew this man was no ordinary waiter. He had once lived in a world where blood and fire were the only language. The rest of the diner focused only on the shattered dishes. No one noticed. No one but me. I was nearly holding my breath. A part of me wanted to look away, to pretend I hadn't seen. But another voice inside screamed, "This isn't something ordinary. This is the kind of thing you only witness once in a lifetime." Have you ever caught a tiny detail that made you question an entire person's life? That's exactly what I had just experienced. And then something strange happened when my eyes lingered on the tattoo. The waiter suddenly glanced back at me. Just for a second. But I swear, in that single flicker of his gaze, I saw the shadow of war. Heavy. Dark. Like a memory he was desperate to bury for the rest of his life. What would you think if someone who once carried a rifle through battlefields was now carrying trays in a diner? Why would a hero choose to live hidden away, quietly behind a kitchen counter? And was that tattoo nothing more than an old scar? Or was it the doorway into a story the world had never heard? From that moment on, I couldn't take my eyes off him. An ordinary waiter, probably making less in a month than his rent cost, carried the mark of a warrior who had once lived and died on the battlefield. Why? How could that be? My head was flooded with questions. I remember pretending to bend down to grab a napkin, but in reality, I just wanted a closer look at that tattoo. And the closer I looked, the faster my heart pounded. There was no doubt anymore that emblem was real. Not a casual tattoo. Not some made-up design. It was something only men who had walked out of hell could wear. Have you ever sat across from someone who seemed like they had nothing special about them, only to realize they might have lived through things you couldn't even imagine? If it were you, would you stand up and demand answers? Or would you stay silent, pretending you hadn't noticed? Me. I was trapped in between. Half of me wanted to blurt out. Who are you? Where have you been? Why are you hiding? The other half feared that if I spoke, I would uncover a secret far too heavy for me to carry. And then a strange feeling washed over me. I wasn't looking at a waiter anymore. I was staring at a volcano buried under ash, waiting to erupt. What do you think? Should I have dug deeper into the secret? Leave me a comment and tell me what you'd do if you were in my place. And don't forget to hit subscribe, so you won't miss the next part of this unbelievable story. While I was still twisting my mind over that tattoo, something suddenly happened that changed the entire atmosphere of the diner. An older man, sitting at a corner table, suddenly froze and stood up. His eyes locked onto the waiter's arm, as if he had just seen a ghost come back to life. He didn't blink. His lips trembled, and then he whispered in a voice that nearly cracked, "Impossible. That's the insignia of the death unit." The whole diner went silent in confusion. A few people turned their heads, unsure what was happening. But me. I was in absolute shock. It wasn't just me who had noticed. Someone else, someone who seemed to know even more than I did, had spoken the unit's name out loud. What would you think if a secret you had just uncovered was instantly confirmed by a stranger? That's not curiosity anymore. That's living proof. The waiter froze. For a brief moment, his eyes flickered with unease, then he quickly bent down again to keep picking up the mess. But the room was no longer the same. Whispers began to ripple through the tables. Some diners murmured, "What's the death unit?" Others stared at him with a mix of confusion and fear. As for me, my heart was pounding like war drums. If that older man was right, then the man carrying this tray had once survived the most brutal missions imaginable, where one wrong move could mean instant death. So why was he here now, hiding behind an old diner counter? Would you dare believe that a true hero could be sitting right in front of you and you never even knew it? I hadn't even caught my breath when the older man stepped straight toward the waiter. His hands trembled as he grabbed the tattooed arm, staring at it as if he feared it was only an illusion. His voice cracked as he spoke. You're the one who saved our unit in the Battle of X. I could never forget this tattoo." The diner went completely silent. It felt like the air itself had frozen. The waiter, the man we had all assumed was just another ordinary guy, suddenly became the center of the room. He gently pulled his arm back, gave a faint smile, and said quietly, "That was a long time ago. I was only doing my duty." Can you even imagine? A battlefield hero, a man who had stared death in the face dozens of times, a man once awarded the highest honors, was now standing here, cleaning shattered dishes off a diner floor. It sounds unbelievable, but I saw it with my own eyes. And that older man's words confirmed every bit of it. The people around us began to murmur. Some wiped away tears. Some bowed their heads in silence. As for me, my heart was pounding, goosebumps racing across my skin. I knew I had just witnessed a secret so powerful that this man had spent his entire life trying to keep it hidden. What would you do if one day you discovered that the waiter you saw every day was, in fact, a warrior who had written history? Would you have the calm to sit still? Or would you rise to your feet and show your respect immediately? The atmosphere in the diner was surreal. Just minutes before, everyone had been laughing, joking, hurriedly calling out their orders. Now, silence. Every pair of eyes was fixed on the waiter. I saw an elderly woman with a cane slowly rise to her feet, her eyes glistening with tears. She nodded gently, as if to give thanks on behalf of those who never returned. A young couple sitting near the door clasped each other's hands, perhaps realizing for the first time that heroes don't just exist on movie screens. And the older man, he was nearly in tears. He bowed his head before the waiter, his voice shaking. "You saved my life. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here today." The waiter hesitated. He gave a faint smile, bent down to gather the last of the broken shards, and answered in a voice so calm it felt almost unreal. "We all just did what we had to do." I swear, in that moment, the whole diner held its breath. A few people began to clap softly. Then others joined in. No cheering. No noise. Just scattered, heartfelt applause for a man who had chosen to quietly bury his glorious past. Have you ever witnessed a moment that made your heart ache, where pride and sorrow collided all at once? I had just lived it. And I knew everyone in that diner that day would carry it with them forever. But the thing that haunted me most wasn't the applause. It was the calm, steady gaze of that man, the gaze of a hero who had chosen to disappear into ordinary life. Sitting there, I felt my whole body trembling. Not from fear, but from an emotion that was both strange and overwhelming. I had eaten in this diner so many times, called for him to bring me tray after tray of food, and yet never once imagined. The man in front of me wasn't just a waiter. He was living history. I wanted to walk over, to say something. But my legs felt pinned to the floor. A storm of questions spun in my head. Why would a hero choose to hide himself? Why tell no one? And if that tray hadn't fallen today, when would I have ever known the truth? The waiter looked up, and for a brief second, his eyes met mine. There was no pride there. No sense of glory. Only the faintest smile, as if to say, "Don't say anything. I just want to live this way." Have you ever faced a moment where you knew that if you spoke, everything would change forever? I chose silence. And maybe, that was the greatest respect I could give him. If it were you, would you stay silent like I did, or would you stand up and thank him on the spot? Leave me a comment, I want to know what you choose. And don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss the final part where I'll share the true lesson I took away from this story. Walking out of that diner, my mind was spinning. I strolled down the street with my heart still racing, as if I had just walked out of a storm. A fallen tray, a glimpse of a tattoo, and an entire past thought to be buried had suddenly revealed itself right before my eyes. I used to think heroes were the faces celebrated on TV, the people cheered by thousands. But no. Sometimes heroes sit right in front of us, in the form of someone quietly wiping tables, carrying trays of food, living as if nothing about them is extraordinary. And I realize there are people who choose to carry their most brutal memories in silence, just so the rest of us can live in peace. Have you ever met someone ordinary, yet felt certain they were hiding a story no one dared to tell? If not, maybe look closer. Because sometimes, a legend can be just one fallen tray away. I didn't return to that diner the next day. Part of me wanted to preserve that moment in my memory. A single instant, quiet yet powerful. I knew I had witnessed a secret few ever get the chance to see. And that was enough to change the way I look at the world. If you're watching this video, let me ask you. What would you do if you discovered that an ordinary person around you was, in fact, a hero? Would you stay silent out of respect, or would you speak up so the whole world could know? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that are shocking, real, and thought-provoking like this one, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because I promise, what's coming next will surprise you even more.